Greetings. This video is my first installment in a two-part series titled Just for the Record. Each video in this series will be short and quickly cover a point of which is at least of interest to me and perhaps to some others, but I also acknowledge that this will strike some as covering, a mere trifle, right? Nonetheless, I think an alternative title for this series could be Profiles in Manipulation. In this first installment, I want to briefly touch on the topic of Sista E's erstwhile Facebook forum, as I think the story of her undermining her own forum is a testament to how others around her manipulated her into working against her own natural inclination towards dialogue, open dialogue in particular. Now, for those who don't know, a little over 2 years ago, Sista E had a public forum on Facebook titled Let's Talk with Sista E, which she intended to be a place for open dialogue between Christians and Israelites. And by the way, just as a quick disclaimer, I am not using the words Christians and Israelites as mutually exclusive categories. Rather, there can be overlap between the two, and I think her forum sought to bring out, the fact that there could be overlap via open dialogue. Sadly, she practically dismantled that forum in March of 2020. Now, in May of 2020, I briefly touched on my perception of her forum and the history of the forum and the downfall of her forum and how I related to it. So I'd like to play an excerpt from that video from May of 2020 before getting into a recent development on this topic. So this clip I'm about to show will run slightly over 3 minutes, and keep in mind that it's from 2 years ago, so that's from the year 2020. Here you go. In fact, I'd like to clarify something very quickly, and that is that I myself tried to initiate a cordial and respectful correspondence with Pastor Kelly Richardson. Last fall, there was briefly some discussion about the possibility of having a dialogue with Pastor Richardson, whether via video chat or even over the telephone. At the time, it was my understanding that would be organized by Sista E and Faithful to God. However, apparently there was some sort of breakdown in communication or miscommunication, some sort of misunderstanding, and Pastor Richardson and Sista E came away with some sort of impression that we were unwilling to dialogue with him. So last March, I posted to Sista E's forum offering that perhaps instead we could have a correspondence on our various points of disagreement in her Facebook forum. I felt that her forum would provide a good neutral venue for that sort of a correspondence, and I also offered to her that a correspondence could be helpful because then we wouldn't have to engage in the messy work or the sticky work of trying to reconcile our various busy schedules. One person could post their thoughts in her forum, and then when time permitted, the other person or other participants could post their thoughts, their responses, etc. Therefore, we didn't have to be on at the same time. And so I told her that I would attempt to initiate these correspondences by posting certain threads in her forum, and then, when time permitted, the correspondence could build from there. And she responded, "Thanks, no problem," which I interpreted to mean that she agreed that perhaps a correspondence would be a good idea and that it would be permissible for me to share my thoughts in her forum, and then, when time permitted, perhaps Kelly Richardson or other gentlemen or ladies who were on his side could then respond, and the correspondence could build from there. It seemed to me that she agreed with what I had proposed. And so I composed a post which covered the basics of where Lashon Kodash and modern Israeli Hebrew stand vis-a-vis biblical Hebrew. I went into some of the criticisms that are put forth towards modern Israeli Hebrew and talked about how some of those same criticisms could apply to Lashon Kodash, and I discussed the evidence for and against Lashon Kodash. I handled it very respectfully, and I was looking forward to the comments of others without any intention of rushing anyone. The post was up for a few days, and it didn't receive any replies, and that's fine. My attitude was that there's no time limit for responses. People should respond when their time permits. Sista E allowed that post to stay up in her forum for several days, and one thing that was helpful, in her forum, you're able to see who has viewed your post if you post to her forum. And so each day I was checking to see if Pastor Kelly Richardson had seen it yet, because I was looking most forward to his thoughts on what I had written. Then, after a few days, I saw that he had viewed the post. However, unfortunately, within hours of Pastor Richardson seeing the post, it was deleted, and I was abruptly kicked out of the forum. Now, ultimately, it's okay. It's not a big deal. However, if I'm honest, I must confess that a part of me does wonder if Pastor Richardson may have played some role in Sister E's decision to delete my post and eject me from the forum. Okay, and now we're back to the present day, the year 2022. And to summarize and slightly add to what was covered in that clip, Sister E once had a public forum on Facebook, which was intended to be a place for dialogue among Christians and Israelites. And she added me to that forum and was at the time fine with me sharing my thoughts there, dialoguing on a number of topics, not only Lashuan Kodash, but also the pews. However, upon seeing my posts, specifically Kelly Richardson, became upset. I dare to say he felt intellectually challenged, perhaps even threatened by those posts. And when he became upset, I was booted from the forum, and the forum was set to private. In short, Sister E's place of public dialogue was essentially dismantled. And I always suspected that it was Kelly Richardson who inspired her to do that, right? It seemed obvious to me. Well, fast forward to this past weekend. We finally got corroboration for that suspicion, which I've had for over 2 years, right? You see, I was in the live chat last Friday of Sister E's live show that night, and Kelly Richardson addressed me directly and confirmed that it was indeed his idea to boot me from Sister E's forum. So I'm going to play a clip which will run for roughly a minute and a half. Kelly's description of events isn't exactly accurate, but what's salient here for me is finally getting corroboration for the suspicion that I had, that he was the inspiration behind the de facto dismantling of Sister E's forum. Here you go, listen to this.
Let me just say something real quick. Hold your thought. Let me say this to you, Abu, because I'm not going to let you tap dance, right? At that time, Sister E invited me and you to have an actual discussion on her channel, and she got the screen prints with you saying you just want to stick to posting text on the texting versus having an actual discussion. It was going to be I treated you but nothing but respect, and Sister E can tell you that. When you refused, and then you guys decide to go the way that you're going, I made it clear, hey, boot him off. I don't want to have nothing to do with him. So let me leave. Let's not go there. Let's not sit here and try to rewrite history. I gave you an opportunity to talk face to face. Sister E gave you the opportunity to talk face to face on her Facebook group, and you stated that you wanted to keep things in a chat, text messaging, texting, not having an actual discussion. So let me make this clear. I don't have to lie about anything. So I'm making sure you understand that. Yeah, I told her that, hey, I don't want to talk to you, block him. That's what I said. I said block him. Everybody know about me. Giving block parties. If you either for us or against us, you either helping us or hurting us.
So that's pretty much it. I just wanted to be clear, for the record about that. And again, I recognize that some will find this to be pointless. They'll find this to be a mere trifle, maybe even hair splitting. But I think it speaks to the sort of manipulation which has been exerted on Sister E. And with that in mind, permit me to give a brief bit of history of my perception of Sister E. Let me begin by linking her to Berean, as that's how I first perceived her. You see, in 2019, I didn't know much about Berean TV, about the Berean TV channel, but I was hearing about it from other Christians, and I caught wind of the fact that some Christians were angry with Berean because they felt he was giving too much of a platform to Israelites, right? And in my private discussions with certain Christians at that time, I was saying that I didn't see what the big deal was. I was saying that if that Berean guy, whoever he was, if he was providing a place for open dialogue, that should be considered a good thing, even if the discussions don't always go the way, Christians would prefer, right? I felt that way because I myself have always been a believer in free speech and the value of open dialogue, right? I abhor censorship, which is why I let anyone, including critics, comment on my videos and on my Facebook posts. So then around that time, I come into contact with Sister E. As my initial videos on the topic of the pews, it caught her eye. And I understood her to likewise be a believer in open dialogue. And I learned that she even had that Facebook forum, Let's Talk with Sister E, which was intended as a place for public dialogue. I personally found that admirable. I instantly had a high opinion of Sister E because of that, right? And over the years, she has, to her credit, reiterated her own belief in dialogue. Sadly, however, some of the people around her have manipulated her into adopting positions where criticisms, or, the criticisms of stances taken by a select few people who she feels the need to protect, those criticisms are seen as attacks on the whole community, on the whole nation, as some might put it. And one man in particular got her to dismantle her own forum, and others later moved her towards turning her YouTube channel into a sort of echo chamber, a sort of safe space where they can make their claims without being challenged, right? And now, fortunately, recently, Sista E has again signaled an openness to dialogue. So, I hope she continues down that path. I would encourage Sista E to, for example, to do what I do, or to use someone else as an example, to do what Orthodox Moore does with his channel. I would hope that Sista E would model her channel in terms of, openness to dialogue, openness to criticism, model her channel after what Orthodox Moore does, right? Because Orthodox Moore, his channel, he allows criticisms, people who have all sorts of accusations against them, he allows them in his live chat and in the comment section of his video. So I would tell Sista E to likewise I would advise, I would ask, I would encourage her to likewise tell her moderators to not censor criticism in the live chats of her shows, and likewise to let the comment sections of her videos go uncensored. Don't block the critics who have objections. Not necessarily, and I'm not talking to her, objections towards the men that she feels the need to protect. So in short, stop shielding. I would ask her to stop shielding a small handful of men from disagreement and dialogue. And I would even encourage Sista E to consider bringing her forum back. Bring back that Facebook forum, Let's Talk with Sista E, and make it public again, Maybe it still has the potential to be a place for public dialogue. Let's see where that goes, right? But whatever the case, on that note, I'll close here. As always, I look forward to the comments of others. God bless.